How many of you believe you can fly? Yeah.
Thanks, that.
No problem, yeah. Chet says. Well, we may have a latent potential that we don't yet know about. We may indeed be able to fly, to levitate. But what I do believe and know to be true is that each and every one of us are created with a spirit that can fly. A spirit that can keep us lifted, a spirit that can lift us even when going through the most challenging times in life so that we can be present to those from that very elevated place. And so in that context, I hope you know you can fly, that your spirit is always lifted. So this past week of Thanksgiving, we had about 100 people who came here. So for those of you that were here, I trust that you enjoyed that. I hope many of you had an opportunity to be with family. I had the occasion to drive 5.5 hours to the eastern part of the state. This is a long state, in case you've never driven to Goldsboro, where my family lives. And went down on Wednesday and back on Friday. But not only did we celebrate Thanksgiving, we had 2 birthdays. My niece turned 21, and my mother turned 75. So it was a really wonderful experience. And Wednesday night, as we sat at a restaurant, all of the family around the table, and there's my niece and my mom side by side. And my mother, we were talking about that those were 2, just very touchstone years, to be 21 and then 75. And my mom turned and looked at my niece, and she said, "Honey, before you even know it, you'll be sitting in this chair." That time goes so fast. And she said, "I hope you are surrounded by your children and your grandchildren, but most importantly, I hope you make every year count." And I really took that in, as I feel blessed to have my parents with me, and my mom still very healthy as far as I know, my niece in college and full of life, and to really see that wisdom, to cherish every year of life, and really to cherish every day. And it made Thanksgiving in our home especially sweet, I think, because of that, just in realizing that, family is special and friends are special. And I love the way that Sharon talks about that, we have birth family, and then we have the tribe that we were born into as well. So I want to thank you for being my family and my tribe. What a beautiful tribe that we are here together at Unity. So thank you. So today, the first Sunday in Advent, we talk about hope and a spirit of resilience. There's, to me, nothing more sad than hearing the words, "It's hopeless." Because anytime something is truly hopeless, it's as if all life, all possibility, it's as if it's completely stuck. It's hopeless. And anytime you have felt yourself in a place of hopelessness, it is perhaps the darkest place of despair that you can find yourself. And so to me, it's no coincidence that this first Sunday of Advent is about hope, because to me, hope literally keeps the door open. Hope says that something is possible, that I do believe. And part of hope, and what hope brings, is a resilient spirit. When I looked at my mom and my niece, something they both have in common is they both have a resilient spirit. How many of you believe you have a resilient spirit? I believe if you're here, you have a resilient spirit. To have that spirit of resiliency, and probably could even use a little boosting in that spirit from time to time. So hopefully we get some of that today. So every year when we begin to enter the Christmas season, I absolutely love this season. And I even have a greater appreciation for it now that I have sort of multiple lenses to look at the traditional Christmas story and to understand it. In Unity, we observe the life of the man Jesus, the individual who actualized his potential in the sense that he became an enlightened being. He knew who he was as an expression of all that is. And he did not think himself the only one, because he said, "The things that I do, you shall do in even greater." So we celebrate what he accomplished, and we claim what he taught and said as what we are here to accomplish as well. And that's the second part, that in Unity we really celebrate the Christ presence. Christ meaning the the perfect pattern of our being as a spiritual being, the perfect pattern of who we are, that each of us are here to have a Christ consciousness, to express that dimension of our being. There's some scriptures that I'd like to show you. Well, one scripture and a couple of other quotes. If you would give me the first from Colossians. This translation comes from the Message translation of the Bible. And it says, "The mystery has been kept in the dark for a long time, but now it is out in the open. God wanted everyone, not just Jews, to know this rich and glorious secret inside and out, regardless of their background, regardless of their religious standing. The mystery in a nutshell is this: Christ is in you. So therefore, you can look forward to the sharing in God's glory or God's nature. It's that simple. That is the substance of our message. We preach Christ." And I love that because in Hinduism, if you look up the word Atman, A-T-M-A-N, you will find the definition of Atman to be the exact same as we would say the definition of Christ. It's the divine spark. It's that perfect pattern of being. It's the true essence of who we are as a spiritual being that is the core of all that each and every one of us are. And so when we begin to realize that we're more than meets the eye, that I can see you as a physical body, but I know that you are a spiritual being, that we are far more than meets the eye. The next quote is by James Dillett Freeman, a Unity poet, minister. He wrote, "Our false beliefs about our true nature keep us from realizing our Christ potential." I talked a few Sundays ago about a woman that I heard describing her life, and she said, "I've spent a lot of time in my life on the love struggle bus." And I thought, how many years have we spent on some kind of struggle bus? And the love struggle bus, the abundance struggle bus, the whatever struggle bus. But perhaps that's because we didn't really fully know who we were. Because when we know who we are, we open up and access a dimension of us that allows us to be present to life. It doesn't make all your problems go away. It doesn't make you magically a bliss ninny. It just really opens up another dimension that equips you to be more real, to be more vulnerable, to be more heart-filled, to be more compassionate, to get in up to your elbows in life and be fully present because you've discovered that you carry a wealth of gold within you. And I would call that wealth of God your spiritual nature, the Christ within. The next is a quote by Charles Fillmore, who is the co-founder of Unity. In speaking about the Christmas message, he said, "Each of us has within him or her the Christ, just as Jesus had. And we must look within to recognize and actualize our sonship, which is our divine origin and birth, just as Jesus did." And so what we're talking about is giving birth to the awareness of our true nature. You see, it's already born. It's already in existence. Just as the source is in existence, your true nature is in existence. And so you can never be any more of the spiritual being that you are, but we can certainly be more aware. And that's what we birth every year, is a greater understanding and a greater awareness of as who we are as an expression of all that is. Are you with me with that? You really get that. When we get that, life begins to shift and change. So knowing this is reason for hope, because it's to have that resonance in the soul that says, "It is well with my soul, that this too shall pass, that no matter what happens, all shall be well with my soul." And when you know that, it allows you to get more involved in life, to play full out, to give from your whole heart. I say often, it really is like the hokey pokey. It's about put your whole self in and give it everything you've got and just go for it. Because you realize that that's what you're here to do. Life is not about saving it anymore. It's about expressing the fullness of your life. And so this hope. The message of hope is interestingly found in the character of David. You probably remember the story of David if you have read the Bible or had those Sunday school lessons. David, you remember, was known as a young man because David faced the giant named Goliath. We've all heard that story. and then how David went on to become a king of a great nation. He was admired for his love. The scriptures say that David danced before the Lord with all his might. I've always admired that because I feel, and the scriptures say that David was a man after God's own heart. Well, I consider myself a woman after the heart of God, the heart of love. And so I really resonate with that, with what he represents, because he represents that quality within us that will not give up, that knows we are one with the one, and that will do everything we can to seek it, to celebrate it, to know it. So the story of David's life reveals some things. If you remember, he was a young lad, as the scriptures say. He was a shepherd boy, which meant that his job was to be out in the field with the sheeps. And the sheeps, is that Somebody said if you're a southern minister, they don't hold your language against you. He was out with the sheep in the field, and the sheeps probably. But his job was to keep them safe. And so what he became very skilled was with a slingshot, a piece of leather and a stone, where anytime there was a wolf or a coyote or whatever may have been in his area, he became very skilled and would be able to cast a stone and scare the animals away to keep the sheep safe. So the scriptures say that David was asked to go take some food to his brothers because his brothers were older and they were fighting in this army. They were fighting against the Philistines. And the army, the Hebrew people, were really discouraged because of this big, what they called the giant Goliath, who was shouting, "Send someone over and I'll fight with them." And there was no one that could stand up to this giant. So David is taking food to his brothers. He's going through the camp and he's hearing the story about this giant that they haven't been able to defeat, and who's going to go next, and can anybody truly stand up against him? And so he goes straight to the captain and finds the leader and says, "Send me. I'm qualified. Send me." Well, David was just this very little young kid, and so they laughed at him and said, "You're just a little shepherd boy. You're certainly not able to go." But he said, "Send me. I'm very skilled. I can take my sling and a stone, and I can do this." So he finally convinced them to send him out to face this giant. So the first thing they did is they put all this armor on him. But he was so little, he could hardly walk. It wasn't his armor. Have you ever had people try to put their stuff on you? Family, media, people put their stuff on you. Do it this way, take it this way. Or have you ever tried to protect yourself so much that you really immobilized yourself in life? You were sort of stuck because you were in this defensive posture. And so we're not going to get very far like this. And he didn't get very far like this. He said, "I have to do it my way. I can't show up in a way that is not authentically me. I must do it that way, my way." And that's the first lesson in this, is that you can't wear somebody else's spiritual experience. Amen? You can't wear somebody else's religious beliefs. You can't wear somebody else's expectations. You can't wear somebody else's approval or rejection. We really have to be able to show up and say, "I'm going to do this my way. I was sent for a purpose. I must do it my way. I must bring my skills, my gifts, my talents, and do it my way." So he takes off the armor and he gathers his sling and he begins to walk. Now he stops along the way and he picks up 3 stones. This is very symbolic. It says he picks up 3 stones and then he goes down and he begins to face this giant Goliath, and this giant begins to taunt him, just as he had done with everyone before that had met him. But instead of getting nervous and backing down, David did what David knew how to do. He used that sling, and just as he had done many, many times with animals and different things that he was needing to scare off, he was able to aim it and hit the giant right in the spot where there was no armor. And as the story goes, the giant's down. Now, don't you wish your life ended like that every time? Just a wonderful ending, and you're the hero, you've slayed the giant, and everybody lived happily ever after, at least for a little while. Well, there's a legend around the 3 stones. He picked up 3 stones, but he only needed 1. He only used 1. But he knew something. There was a reason he took 3 stones. And so these 3 stones symbolize something. They symbolize a Kabbalistic teaching about something that all of us, that all enlightened beings carry within them. It's about 3 things that each and every one of us should know that we have, and should allow these things to go before us, to protect us, to carry us. And the first thing, what the first stone represents, is that we all need something to believe in. We all need something to believe in. You know how good it feels when somebody believes in you? Do you have somebody in your life? I mean, I feel blessed to have parents that at least acted like they believed in me part of the time. They believed in some of the stuff. But to have somebody that believes in you, to have friends that believe in you, to have a spiritual community that believes in you. And so we all need somebody that believes in us, and we all need something to believe in. And by this something to believe in, there's many levels of what we believe in, but it's important for you to consider, especially when it comes to having a spirit of resiliency, is to ask yourself, what do I believe in? What carries me? What are some of the things some of you believe in? Love. Passion. Healing. Yeah, many things. Love, compassion, peace, healing, God, higher power. I truly believe when the scriptures say that we are created in the likeness and image of God. I literally believe that. And that gets me through because I believe there's more to me and to us than literally meets the eye. And so knowing that we carry a spirit within us, something to believe in. When I was thinking about this week, I thought about Christmas. And as a kid, I always loved this week because it was our family's tradition to put up the Christmas tree and the Christmas decorations the weekend after Thanksgiving. I was out and about yesterday and I saw a bunch of cars and trucks with the trees on top, and it warmed up my heart because I remember that tradition as a child. How every weekend after Thanksgiving, my father would walk into our hallway. My parents still live in the same house, and he would reach up and he'd pull down the attic string. And down came these magical stairs that we were never allowed to climb. And he'd unfold these little wooden stairs that led up into the attic. And he would go up and he'd start coming down with these boxes that represented Christmas. And I would just my sister and I are only 18 months apart, and we would just get so excited. And every time he'd bring down a box, we'd run and open it up and begin to pull the stuff out, because these boxes held the memories of Christmas past. And these boxes also held the promise of Christmas present that year. And so as a child, it was as if something magical happened on that Saturday, that we literally unleashed the spirit of Christmas. And we decorated in the house inside and out, and it was just happy. And then sometime after Christmas, around the first of the year, I always dreaded that day when that string would come back down. The boxes would come back down and we pack it up. Because I can distinctly remember I had a sad feeling as if I lost a friend or something went away. Do you remember that? It was like I noticed an emptiness. Something was absent. And it was very real to me. And so I equated year after year that Christmas spirit must be contained in those magical boxes. Until I got older. And I really got more involved. And not only was I excited about receiving the gifts of Christmas, then I began to give Christmas. I began to create Christmas. And what I slowly discovered was Christmas spirit wasn't contained in those boxes. Christmas was always where? Inside of me. You know, it's just like that. Remember the movie The Grinch? The Grinch, he was green with envy, how he hated the Who's, who were so happy about Christmas, and so he tried to take away the toys, to take away all the decorations, but he discovered he could never destroy Christmas, because where was the Christmas spirit? It was in them, it was in their heart, it was in the songs they sang, it was in the community. And so when we talk about something to believe in, Christmas is a great reminder that all of these outer decorations, what they really do is help us connect with the spirit that is always there. And if we can discover, we always carry that spirit. We always carry the spirit of love and hope and compassion and celebration. And it doesn't have to be a one-time event, but it's something that is available to us all the time. Eric Severed said, Christmas is a necessity, There has to be at least one day of the year to remind us that we're here for something else besides our ordinary selves. And I like that, but it's true that we carry this spirit within us. And so the first stone, we all need something to believe in. What do you carry in you that gets you through the night? What do you believe in and carry in you that lifts you up and allows you to be more? So we all need something to believe in. The second stone, the second thing that we all need something or someone to love. We all need to love. Our very nature is love. And there's a song that says, it's not love till you give it away. And love is about being in the experience of love, giving it away. As I was driving from Goldsboro back here, I was listening to NPR radio, and I heard about an interesting survey that took place at Harvard University. There's a psychiatrist, Dr. Robert Waldinger, who is the fourth person now overseeing a Harvard study. It was called it's an adult development study. In the 1930s, Harvard University asked the question, what keeps people happy and healthy as they go through life? What really makes people and keeps people happy and healthy as they go through life? And so in 1938, they amassed a group of 724 men. And since 1938, there's still over 60 of those men living. They've been interviewed every year. They've had cameras in the men's home. They have all of their medical records. They take blood every year. So they really have tracked the lives of these men. Part of the men came from Harvard. Those men graduated during World War II, and a number of them went off to serve in the war. A second group of the men that went into the study came from Boston's inner city, the Boston of the 1930s, and they picked young boys that were in the most challenging areas, in the most challenging lives. And so they had a real blend of men, again, 724. When they began the study, as I said, they went in their homes, they interviewed them, and they watched them throughout their life. It said they grew up and entered, these men, young boys grew up and entered all walks of life. Some became factory workers, some lawyers, bricklayers, doctors. One U.S. president was in the group. Some developed alcoholism. A few developed schizophrenia. Some climbed the social ladder from the bottom all the way to the top, and some made that journey in the opposite direction. Many of the Boston inner city men ask, why do you keep studying me? My life is just not that interesting. The Harvard men never asked that question. So they tracked them. They paid special attention when they got into their 50s. How was their health? How was their cholesterol? And they were looking for what was a predictor, what was an indicator that would show what brings about the happiest and healthiest lives. Well, what they discovered, they said it was not a person's cholesterol, it was not a person's bank account, it was not a person's status, but what predicted this was the quality of loving relationships. The quality of loving relationships. And that those people, particularly by the time they reached mid-age, that were in loving relationships were the ones that were living into their 80s, still happy, still healthy. And so the study is ongoing. They're now including men and women because now they have thousands of children of these men that they're continuing to study as well. But he did a TED talk on this and said that they were quite surprised and yet pleased that the one thing that made a difference was that these people with a better quality of life had something or someone to love. And that ancient wisdom that we all need something to believe in, we all need something and someone to love. And then the third stone is we all need something to do. That to be of service. And sometimes we feel like if I'm not doing something great, then maybe I should not even bother. Well, that's where we make a mistake. Because what we should realize is we're here to bring our greatness to everything we do. We're here to bring our presence, our intentionality, our love to everything we do, whether it appears to be great or small. Because it's as Mother Teresa said, there is no small thing when done with great love. That it's a powerful thing to do something and to realize that everything you're doing has the capacity to, the Spirit, this Christ Spirit, we are here to believe in its presence, to nurture this presence in our life, and to bring it forth in everything we do. There's a story, a true story about Queen Elizabeth, the Queen of England, when she was younger in her life. She had a habit of going out into the rural areas where she wasn't as recognized, and she would just get out and walk around in the country, in the little areas. Well, one day she was doing this. She was out walking around, and it started to rain. So she stopped at a little house, and she knocked on the door, and she said, "Excuse me, may I borrow an umbrella?" And the woman didn't recognize her, and she said, "Well, yes, just a moment." So she went inside, and she was thinking, the woman said, "May I borrow an umbrella? I'll bring it back tomorrow." But she was thinking, I know I'm never going to see this umbrella again. So she went and found the one where the ribs were broken and, the top. Just for curiosity's sake, how many of you own one of those? Yes, like some of the broken things in the inside, and it sort of works, but not really that well. But that's the one she got and gave her. So the queen went on her way, never letting her know she was. So the next day, there's a knock on this lady's door. And the woman opens the door. This time, a man is standing there in a suit, and she sees a huge, beautiful car. And the woman rolls down the window, and the gentleman says, "The queen would like to thank you for the use of your umbrella." And the woman said, "Oh, my God, how I missed an opportunity to treat the queen like a queen." And it's like worrying that we may not get it back. It may not come back. Allows us and sometimes makes us hold back. When the whole key is we all need something to believe in, something to love, and something to do. And are we bringing everything we have and doing what we can from that place? Richard, would you give me the song? The final story I want to share, another true story. To me, I love stories because story conveys truth in the most powerful way. This is a true story about a woman who was born in rural Zimbabwe. Her name is Tarara Trent. She was born in a hut with no running water. She was born in 1965. Her one desire, she wanted an education. This little girl born in Zimbabwe where girls never went to school. Some of the boys did, not even all the boys. But something in her, she believed in a better quality of life. She was driven to learn. And so her brother went to school, and she would take his books and she would try to figure them out herself, and she actually taught herself to read. She began to do his homework. She learned to count by working out with the sheeps or with the cows out. She learned to work with the count by counting the cows, she said. And what she started doing was filling out the homework and putting her piece of paper in her brother's little book, and he didn't even know it, but when he turned it in, he was turning in 2 copies. Well, eventually the teacher thought, who is this Tarara? Because her little homework was better than anybody else. And so she found out this was a little girl, and she went to the father's house and convinced the father to let her go to school. And Tarara was so happy. She finally went to school, but only for a few months because she turned 11 and her father married her off. At 11 years old, this is 1976. This is not that long ago. Zimbabwe, 11 years old, she's now married. Go a few years forward till she's 18. Now at 18, she has 3 children. So now she is in that cycle that she has seen all her life, and yet she has a dream. She's continued to try to learn, and something in her believes that it can be better, believes that she's there for a higher purpose. I think it's fascinating that this little girl was connected with that level of who she was inside of her in those circumstances. Heifer International, you probably are familiar with the organization who work with a lot of these companies. They sent their director in, and the director's name is Joe Luck. Wouldn't you love a name called Joe Luck? Luck just showed up. Joe Luck was sent to her village. And Joe Luck was working with some of the women, hoping to find someone that could be a coordinator for Heifer International in that area. And Joe Luck asked the women, she said, how many of you have a dream? Well, this little girl was the only girl that could connect, and she said, I have a dream. I want to live in the United States. I want a bachelor's degree. I want a master's degree, and I want a PhD. The woman, Joe Luck, was blown away that she heard this from this young mother of 3 children. So she said, if you believe it, it can happen. And this young girl told her mother about her dream, and her mother said, well, you need to do what we do in our tradition. Write it down and go bury it in the ground, and the earth will grow your dream. The earth will grow your dream. And so Terera became a representative, a coordinator for Heifer International. And then other agencies realized the job she was doing, and she began to be the representative there in Zimbabwe. And as the years went by, she saved enough money for herself, her 4 children, and her husband all to move to the United States. They went to Oklahoma. When they moved to Oklahoma, she says they literally had to eat out of trash cans. They were doing everything they could to survive little by little, but she never gave up. She kept taking correspondence classes, one step at a time, step by step by step, doing all she could. She eventually got that bachelor's degree. Then working for her master's degree, she began to be a leader in her area. Would you give me the first slide? And it wasn't long before Oprah Winfrey heard of this young woman. And you know, when Oprah discovers you, life tends to change. It was quite an amazing reunion or meeting when Oprah met her and heard her story. By now she's working with Heifer International on this in the United States. The next slide. When Oprah heard her story, she sent her back to Zimbabwe and sent a camera crew and asked if she could go find that can with those what she had written and bring it up, and she did. She went and found it, and on that piece of paper were 4 things. I want to live in the United States, I want a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and a PhD. In 2015, she wrote a book, The Girl with a Dream in a Can. But then the next, she now runs an international organization. There she is, recently received her PhD. And Oprah awarded her with $1.5 million, which she went back to her village in Zimbabwe and built a school for both boys and girls. Isn't that amazing? I love this because it goes to show that whether we know it or not, it's true. We all carry within us our beliefs. We really need to fan the flame of something to believe in, something to love, and something to do. Because when all of these are aligned, you'll realize beliefs, love, hands and feet doing, you become activated as a whole being. You now become an instrument for a higher purpose. And I too believe she's worthy of everything she has received because she is a true instrument, and now people are giving to her dreams and her world is being changed. In 1976, 2 have been married at 11 years old, 3 children by the age of 18, and now an advocate traveling around the world, liberating people. I believe that that's happening here among us, and that's what we're called to do by recognizing the spirit that lives within us. So I want to invite you to join me in a song as we enter into a time of meditation that says, you are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth. And who you are and all you do are a blessing to the world. You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth. And who you are and all you do is a blessing to the world. You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit